these lynchings, many of them were private affairs done deep off in the woods where nobody would see in the middle of the night. But not all of them. Many of them were public spectacles, right? A black man would be accused of looking at or touching or raping a white woman, right? And he would be put in jail. And as opposed to going to trial, it would be public justice, which is the lynch mob. Or a black woman would be accused of stealing or disrespecting, the woman of the house or the master of the house, whom she was probably a domestic worker in, or some form of domestic slave, quite literally, in a lot of cases. She might speak out of turn. So she would also be imprisoned and put, therefore, subject to the lynch mob. And so the ones that were more public, they would make announcements, in the small towns in the South, that we're going to have a hanging, we're going to have a lynching. And then people from all over the community would come and they would watch this, right? And they would take pictures of it. And then when the person was burnt or hanged, like in this case, they would take pieces of her clothes, they would take pieces of her hair, they might scalp her, they might cut her fingers off, they might cut her breast off, and they pass this stuff on. So you still hear stories today of white folks who have these heirlooms of a testicle or the penis or a breast of someone or the skull, that they take and they keep as these trophies. Then they, like I was saying, they took these pictures and they would make these postcards out of them. And these postcards would then go on sale from this small town or state, and the people would buy it as to say, hey, check this out. This is what we did. Now, what's the modern parallel? Something that has an earlier parallel. It's like when you see these big game hunts in Africa where they kill an elephant or they kill a rhinoceros or they kill a lion. And they sit down and they take these pictures of this dead animal that they've conquered with their gun, right? Or they'll have the horns that they've put up, and they put the mantles of, the deer's head or the boar's head or the elephant head in their house, or the big fish that they capture. It's the same mentality, right? This conquest of nature, this conquest of another human being, or in our case, or in other cases, not just in the case of African, but other people, we're not looked at as being fully human. So we also prizes to be tamed, to be conquered, to be put on the mantle of, it was good game, it was good hunt, it was good sport. And it's something that reaffirms the social order globally of where Europe sits in the world, which is supposedly at the top. And that all the rest of us are underneath. And we are there, we only exist in their narrative to serve them, right? And that we can be treated in any kind of way, killed at will, shot in the head when we're laying down and there's an ambulance 10 feet away, right? This type of brutality that they so that I'm giving you an example of here recently in Palestine. There's a gruesome video of an Israeli occupation soldier who basically just point blank executes a young Palestinian man. He's already laying on the ground, bleeding to death. And in the video, they capture the video basically right next to him, within walking distance, no more than maybe 20 feet away. There's an ambulance sitting right there. It's not on, there's no light. It's the car's basically sitting there doing nothing. There's no doctor that's coming out to treat, this young man at all. He's just laying in the ground, left to bleed. And instead of giving him any help, there's an IDF soldier, which is point blank, is captured in the video, shoots him in the head after he's already lying there basically bleeding to death, right? So just execution style, summary execution, just extrajudicial killing, just killed this man. I'm saying that is the type of logic that you see on display. And it's very common to settler societies where they have to treat indigenous people in such a ruthless way to justify their colonization and their theft and dispossession of the land and the dispossession of the people, right? And to portray those people as savages, who are just hell-bent on overthrowing the just civilization that, it has a right to be there by virtue of its superiority, which goes back to this white supremacist narrative, right? A European settler colonial narrative. And that's what you have here in the United States that was on full display with this art. And it's a mentality which hasn't disappeared. That's what I'm saying when you look at these big white Western kind of safari hunting killings that you see here in the United States, where people go to the Rockies or to the parts of the Great Plains, or they go up to Canada, or they go up to Alaska, they go to Africa, or they go to some parts of Southeast Asia and they're killing lions and all this kind of stuff. It's the same mentality, it's the same practice, it's the same worldview about how you treat other life because you don't deem it to be as valuable or as important as yours.
So you know they passed that complex bill, right?
Yeah. Okay.
We'll catch y'all later.
All the way through?
All right, sure. Yep, all the way through. Complex, the airport still needs to be voted on.
So I need a daytime job.
And it's like they know how guilty they are, you know, and so like they just want to hide their guilt. You know, they come here and you know they look at us, you know, and they see what we're doing, like they snoop their eyes, so you know, go ahead, you know, it doesn't matter, you know. But it's like their empire is falling, and like, you know, this is their life, like this is their heritage, this is their history, and like, but they don't understand that what they did was against like there were just crimes against humanity.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
There are a couple of critical reasons that you ought to know that flag ought to go down. That flag represents the illegal kidnapping and the forced labor of people who had to work against their will. If in fact that happened today, they would in fact find themselves as criminals against the Union. And for the white supremacists who are watching, I am not talking about years gone by. Might I remind you, last year you hung a black man. But that was the last year that we're going to allow that to happen. Emmett Till was killed for looking people in the eye. I came to look the governor in the eye and tell him, turn the flag down before the votes go all the way up.
How do we restore ecological balance? That's what we're really talking about. How do we restore ecological balance, and how do we restore our relationship to the Mother Earth and to nature, and going back to sustainable and regenerative ways of relating to to Earth? And as I'm saying, it's scary because when you look at a lot of the facts, you know, we could have, you know, I'm saying I have two small children, and sometimes fear that I brought them into a world where they may be, their generation, the generation after them, may be the last generation of human beings to walk this planet. And did I bring them into that type of a situation? Looking at the facts, yes, I did. You know, we did. I think we got this generation, the next 10 to 15 years max, to stop and totally change how we relate to our Mother Earth. Because we're not going to Mars anytime soon. We're not going to the moon anytime soon. And even if we could, they would only take a few people. The rest of us will be left here to die. I mean, that's the nature of this system if we don't change the system. So we got to figure out how to change this and end our dependency on this carbon-based, you know, industrial monstrosity that has been built up and now is the center of the world economy and everything that at least those of us who live in Western countries are dependent upon. We got to end it. We got to end it fast because the carbon and methane and the temperature, you know, the climate change is just spiraling out of control. And what we know is that there's never been temperature rises this fast ever, from what scientists can look at, ever. and what we can document in history. There's been gradual change of the earth heating up to this, but not in the span of 200 years, not in the span of 20 years of what we're seeing now. So there's no science to say what's going to happen. Right, we know the weather and everything. We're starting to see it all freak out, and spring's coming, there being no winter in some places. We don't really, what's that going to do to food? What's that going to do to water? And what's that going to do to us as we start fighting over food and water? Because we can't predict when it's going to grow, where we're going to get it from. Right, and then you create a situation with those who have guns and those who have military might and organization and the means of producing more weapons and bullets. They're going to run everything first. Then when that runs out, and they kind of wipe each other out, what's going to be left? We're looking at a world that might look very much like Mad Max. First, it starts, I think, with people like us and things that we're doing here, Cooperation Jackson, just restoring our relationship to the earth and to creating and controlling our own food production and cycle, so we're healthy and we can get healthy, because we've been living in unhealthy systems, eating unhealthy diets, myself included. Getting back to that, right? That's a first step in kind of self-correction, self-healing. But you got to take it beyond that to how do we get other people to embrace that and understand this necessity. So, that's the first step. But the larger step is how do we take that and make that all of Jackson, then make that all of Mississippi, and make that all of the United States. So it's a gradual process, but it's got to be one that's got to be quick.